Great. Hey Josh, how are you?
Hey Christian, how are you? I'm
I'm
good.
doing well. We've got a few people who have joined us, so I'm sure a few more
Fabulous.
will make their way over to the new YouTube stream. But thank you so much for such a gorgeous concert. How do you feel?
You? I feel great. It's such a pleasure to play in that space. I mean, what a lovely, what a lovely sanctuary and a lovely instrument that you provided. So it was sort of a kind of an inspiring place. I know I mentioned that to you when we were doing the recording that you know, being in a sanctuary, a gorgeous cathedral by yourself to play music is just a special treat for sure.
Yeah, so you don't play in churches very often.
These days, no. I mean, as a jazz musician, the slimiest bar in town will do.
Well, I mean,
Generally,
there's a lot of atmosphere to slimy bars, so I
there certainly is. Absolutely.
I mean, you must miss those too, since you probably haven't been in too many of those lately, have you?
Not in the past year. Yeah, I was just thinking, getting dressed up for this interview. I haven't had the opportunity or the occasion to get dressed up in. It seems like 12 months.
Well, I
So
mean,
it was nice.
it's just about 12 months exactly because, like, as social media keeps reminding us, at least of all my artsy musical friends, they're all like marking the one
It
year
was literally a year
anniversary,
ago.
the 1 year anniversary this week of their
Yeah,
last live performance or something.
absolutely.
So, how have you been holding up
So,
during all of this generally?
it's been kind of up and down. I do a good deal of teaching, and
Hmm.
so that has kept me busy. Luckily, most of the teaching world has simply switched virtual.
Yeah.
But in terms of performances, literally everything was canceled. So that was definitely a tough part of the last year, having all this momentum moving forward and practicing and feeling like I have a goal in mind,
Hmm.
and then everything sort of like the floor drops out from underneath you. So it's been, I would be lying if I said that it was an easy year for sure, but it's also given me a lot of time to reflect and to practice and to write new music, and so it has its benefits and its deficiencies, I guess.
Yeah, of course. So, for those of you who are watching, please feel free to put any reactions you have, or particularly if you have questions for Josh. We'll try to answer those. Um, so, Josh, wonder if you might just talk about your process for like if you write a new tune, like. Uh, how does that work for you as a jazz musician? Is it just kind of coming up with a melody and then figuring out over uh, presumably the lifespan of the piece, whether that be days or years, like how you're going to treat it, or what is it?
Yeah, it definitely depends on the individual composition for sure. Sometimes they start with like just a little inkling of a melodic idea. Other times I feel like I've got like a chord progression, even just four chords is enough to like start an improvisation. And I would say that a good number of my compositions like start off as improvisations, and then I hear something, I'm like, ooh, that would make a great tune or a great
Hmm.
composition. So I'll start jotting things down. Um, I would say that like when I start a composition, I probably sort of experiment for several weeks before I make any real decisions, and then slowly things start kind of coming together. Sometimes I'll set one aside for a month or two and then come back to it fresh, and then I don't have as many preconceived notions about it and can sort of take it from there. Um, Sometimes I get inspired by listening to a piece of music. A lot of my compositions sort of have their inspiration in classical music
Sure.
because I love classical music, and I think there's just a wealth of harmonic and melodic material that's there that we can learn from. So, for instance, birdsong, I kind of I kind of took a little inspiration from a Beethoven symphony that was kind of very cheerful and dance like, and that was sort of my just my little initial seed for the composition, and then everything else sort of blossomed from there.
Well, I particularly loved the birdsong piece. That was, I mean, I thought
Thank you.
super effective, and
Thank you.
like just so colorful. It's amazing to listen to a good pianist get so much color out of the piano, um, because like
Very big compliment. Thank you.
yeah, because like oftentimes a piano just sounds like a piano, right? Like, and uh,
There's definitely there's definitely nuance to, especially a good instrument like the one you have at Emmanuel. Sometimes you do come across an instrument where there is no color range. There's brown, and that's it. But some pianos have bright colors, and some have dark. You have some darkness to it, and um, but thank you for that compliment.
Of course. So we've got a couple comments here from David in the chat, and he says, "Lovely, sensitive performance. Your technique is exquisite," which obviously is
Thank
true.
you, David.
The Keystone Corner is anything but a dive bar, he says.
Oh well, no, of course, Keystone Corner is not one of the aforementioned slimy clubs.
But he wants to know where else are you going to be playing?
Say that one again.
He wants to know where else you'll be playing.
Well, that's a great question, David. I think it sort of depends on how things sort of continue opening up. My trio and so I perform regularly with my trio, bassist Chris Monson and drummer Jaron Lamar Davis, and we actually just this past weekend went to Brooklyn to record some new tracks that we hope to release later this year. It's the first time that we've really been together for a year, it seems.
Yeah.
So we hope to be performing in and around the area. There are a couple of concert series like yours that got put on hold that hopefully by the fall or maybe early next year we'll be able to perform at. But all my upcoming dates, when there are upcoming dates, will be on my website at joshuaespinoza.com.
Fantastic. And there's also a question as to where did you study and who did you study with specifically?
Okay, so I did my undergrad at a small school in South Carolina called Furman University, and my teacher there was named Ruby Morgan, a dear mentor and friend now. I studied classical music with her, and then I studied jazz with a saxophonist named Matt Olson, who sort of got my feet wet with all of the improvisation side of things. Mm-hmm. And then I went on to do my master's degree at Indiana University in Bloomington, where I studied with Jean-Louis Hagenauer as a classical teacher. And then I studied with Luke Gillespie. He was my jazz piano teacher. So I've been very lucky to have some very, very great and inspiring instruction over the course of my career. And so, yeah, I guess that sort of answers that.
So did you find jazz while at Furman, or did you go into Furman knowing that you wanted to do jazz?
I was, exploring jazz as an undergrad at Furman, but, was primarily a classical major. And I actually got to grad school as a classical major first, and then decided to try a double major, which was crazy. And I wish, it was a great experience, but, I couldn't handle doing both at that level. It's just, way too many, the standards are so high, so mm-hmm. I had to make a decision, and I decided that I would sort of err on the side of jazz, and I haven't looked back.
Well, good choice. I mean, I haven't heard you play. I haven't heard you play classical piano, so there is no undertone to that comment. just that you are an amazing jazz pianist. So,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I wonder if you might talk about a little bit your upbringing, because you start out your professional bio by talking about this kind of strange dichotomy of having immigrant Mexican on one side of your family and Appalachian South on the other, and how that influences you and what that experience is.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Southern Virginia in the like foothills of the Appalachian Mountain, essentially, and I would say that uh, in a very homogenous part of the country.
Hmm.
Most people don't look like me in that part of the country, and especially when I was going to school. So there was a bit of a rub there, and a bit of a identity. I don't want to say crisis, but I definitely had to like learn how to function um, as a person who doesn't look like everybody else,
Sure.
or have the same background as everybody else. And I think that informs me as a person. I wouldn't change it any other way. I learned a lot about myself and about how I can be unapologetic in who I am because of that.
Hmm.
So, now I feel like as an adult, I've, uh, made decisions that I am who I am, and I don't care what somebody else thinks of me. And I encourage all of my students. I teach a good bit, and I encourage everybody to be open-minded and to not harbor any sort of prejudices or biases, because I've experienced the other side of that
Sure.
growing up where I did.
How would you say that that influences your music making?
Well, so I mean, being from two sort of distinct cultures, uh, you have to kind of sort of learn how to swerve in and out
Hmm.
at any given moment of one identity or set of expectations for you. And I think that sort of mirrors my musical experience, because I started off as a classical musician with kind of like this sort of hidden side of like, really being attracted to jazz music, but not necessarily being brave enough to pursue it. I
Hmm.
always thought like, if I really want to be a professional musician, I need to be a classical musician. But I realized um, that inside of me, my soul was telling me that I really wanted to be an improviser, and I really wanted to be a composer, and I really wanted to explore that side of music making. Um, However, I gained so much inspiration from my classical training and from my studies that I feel like now when you listen to my music, that there kind of a swerving in and out of classical ideas, classical harmonic structures, melodic things, but then also quickly moving into the jazz realm of, say, Chick Corea or Keith Jarrett or something like that. So I feel like those two aspects of my life, my music and my sort of social identity, are mirrored in that way.
Hmm. Fantastic. We have a comment here from Becky. Just a shout out to affirm that Furman is a great school. So,
Woo! Go Paladin!
and
That is so cool.
uh, her
Small
daughter
world.
is an alum. So, yeah, I mean, Furman's a great place. I've never actually been there, but I know many graduates who have come out of.
It's a beautiful place. It was a very inspiring and warm and welcoming place to do my studies.
I've seen photos of the beautiful kind of campus with the lake and the tower, and
It's kind of a paradise.
yeah.
Absolutely, I miss it every day. Actually,
Oh. So, how did you find your way to Baltimore?
well, so my husband was a member of the Army Field Band. He's a clarinetist, and that's what initially brought us to the area.
Hmm.
He has since moved on from the field band, is now teaching at Towson University, and we've sort of made Baltimore our home, and just we love the city. We love the vibrancy of the city. Even within the pandemic, there's still so much life in the city and our neighborhood, and we live very close to Patterson Park, which is just one of our favorite places to go. So, you know, for the for the indefinite future, we plan on making Baltimore our home.
Fantastic. Well, you'll have to come by, Emmanuel, often. So
I will. I will.
I'll just remind folks that if you have any questions, pop them in the chat and we'll answer them. But during lockdown, I think many of us have like had time to not only hone our art, because I practiced a lot during kind of strict lockdown back at the beginning. Um, but explore some other things, whether it be cooking or reading. Like, what has that been for you, if anything?
Uh, that's a great that's a great question. I mean, I feel like I've sort of delved into many different things, but the one that I'm actually most excited about is that my husband and I just started a music school in our neighborhood.
Really?
Um, yeah, just at the end of January, we have. I've always thought about sort of starting our own music program uh, where we can ensure that children and adults are getting very, very high quality education. And so it's called Patterson Park Academy of Music, and we sort of took the leap of faith and decided that we would rent some space and set up some studios. And we found some really wonderful teachers who are graduates of the Peabody Conservatory. Um, and we have a handful of students. I hope that as the pandemic sort of subsides, that will sort of be the, you know, go-to community location for music in our area.
It's
So
fantastic.
I would say that's probably been my biggest project since the pandemic started, besides writing and composing and practicing.
That's a project. I mean, that takes a lot of kind of chutzpah, I guess, to like start a new business essentially, or a new enterprise in the middle of a pandemic. So congratulations.
Yeah, it was. I mean, maybe we're crazy. Maybe we're crazy for doing so, but no, we're very excited about it actually.
So if you need some music lessons, like what do you offer? Piano and clarinet, I assume, but what else?
Piano and well, I mean, eventually get clarinet, but right now piano and guitar.
Okay.
I think uh, in this area, most people don't know what a clarinet is just yet. So we hope to also sort of be an educational, educating the community as well, and hopefully have our own concert series at some point, and just sort of be like a, a vital member of the creative community in this area.
Fantastic. Well, that sounds so exciting. So I hope that people will check that out. I assume you have a website or something?
Yes, that's Patterson Park Academy of Music. Wait, PattersonParkMusic.com.
PattersonParkMusic.com. So check it out,
Yes.
folks, and steer people their way.
Yeah,
Great
please.
thing. So I'm not seeing any more questions, so I think I'll let you go have dinner or whatever you're going to do this evening.
Thank
But
you. Thanks again, Christian. I mean, like I said, it was just uh, a real pleasure to have a performance opportunity like this, especially in such a high quality series as yours. So thank you for inviting me to be a part of it, and for creating this opportunity for your audience as well to experience music in such a time as this.
so yeah, I mean, we're so thrilled to have beautiful musicians and beautiful people like you being a part of it. And of course, shout out as always to our tech side, to Nick and to Sean for making it look and
They're amazing.
sound so
Absolutely
beautiful. I mean, the shots tonight
amazing.
of your hand with the glow of the candles behind is just really, really great. So,
It was really lovely. Very very much. Thank you.
so I encourage everybody to share the YouTube video around, and at some point in the future, we'll have all the individual pieces separated out as well, so we can share those. And I'll just remind people that we'll do this again in 2 weeks. So on the 24th of March, we will welcome some exceptional Peabody students, Christian Paquette, who plays flute, Alvaro Osa, or Alvaro Vasquez Osa, excuse me, who plays the cello, and Allison Freeman on piano, doing the Rachmaninoff cello sonata. So major piece, as well
Great
as some
music.
fantastic flute stuff, Debussy and whatnot. So join us then in a couple weeks, and until then, have a great evening. Great,
Thanks,
thanks
Christian.
Josh. Okay, thanks, bye.
Take care.